Hi everybody, it's Jessie, and this is my first dorky DIY. So, we'll just jump right into it. A few years ago, I had a coworker who loved sushi. So, for her birthday that year, I actually got her this little cute, plushy sushi roll, and it was so adorable. And I kind of wanted something to go with it. I had made lots of cupcakes for other birthdays, but cupcakes didn't really seem to fit that day. So, I thought, what would be super fun? Make sushi. It then occurred to me that I'm not that good of a cook per se, but I do love making treats. So I thought, candy sushi? So that's what we're gonna make today. I've made this tons of times, I've taken it to parties and people love it. At first they get a little confused, but once they see what it is and they taste it, most people will go, oh, I didn't know I liked sushi, and suddenly they do. So what we're gonna need first is Rice Krispie Squares. They're going to act as our rice in our sushi. The first thing you're gonna need to make Rice Krispie Squares is 6 cups of Rice Krispies. This is about 3/4 of one of the small boxes of Rice Krispies that you get in the grocery store. You're also going to need 5 cups of mini marshmallows. If you wanted to use the full-size marshmallows, it's about 40. You also need 1/4 cup of margarine or butter, whichever is your preference. And 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. This is optional and entirely up to you if you want that kind of vanilla taste on your Rice Krispies. A lot of people don't. They find the marshmallow is good enough. But once again, entirely up to you. Okay. So the first step to making your Rice Krispies is to take your 1/4 cup of butter or margarine and melt it on a medium heat, medium low. You don't want to melt it too fast because then you're going to get this weird like brown consistency. You don't want that. Melting the butter can be a bit tedious, but take your time. You don't want to melt it too fast because you might end up burning it. Once your butter is melted, you're going to go ahead and add your vanilla if you like. Now, you're going to reduce the heat just a little, and then add your marshmallows. You can add them all at once or a little bit at a time. It is entirely up to you. I personally just like to add them all at once because I don't have patience to do it a little bit at a time. Same thing goes to the marshmallows. You don't want to melt them too quickly. It'll make your Rice Krispie Squares really hard and almost crunchy. Okay. Once your marshmallow gets to approximately this consistency, kind of like icing, you're going to remove it from the heat and add the Rice Krispies. Once again, you can do it all at once, a little bit at a time, entirely up to you. Whoops. Okay, once it's all combined, you're gonna get sort of a consistency of like spider webs. You can see that, kind of like spider webs. So from here, you're going to place it in a, it doesn't really matter what size pan. I'm using a 9x13 right now. So you're going to put your Rice Krispie layer in your pan here. Okay, so we have our Rice Krispie Squares in our pan. I'm going to pop them in the fridge for just a couple of moments, and we're just going to do that just to kind of let them sit because obviously they're still really sticky and that's not any good for cutting. For your fillings and toppings, I usually go with fruit roll-up for the seaweed because it's easiest. For your actual fillings, I generally go with Swedish fish just because they're already fish, and if you chop them up, they look like carrot and avocado. I also use mini M&Ms for fish eggs in red and orange. For the seaweed, you'll need at least some that's just as it is, unrolled right out of the package. But for some other, you're going to want to cut it into strips. So just take a nice sharp knife and run it through. The strips don't have to be perfect as long as they're generally straight lines. To prep your Swedish fish, all you need to do is same thing, nice sharp knife and cut it into strips. For the bigger fish, 3 strips usually works best. If you're working with the smaller Swedish fish, you might not need to cut them quite as much. When it comes to cutting the Swedish fish, I would recommend cutting all of the green, orange, and yellow, but leave some of the red ones as is, just because you're going to want to place them right on top of some of your sushi pieces as whole fish. So. Now that your Rice Krispie squares have had time to set, you're going to need to cut them. Obviously there's various sizes you're going to need. A small rectangular shape is the one you're going to need for your nigiri sushi, and I'm certain I'm pronouncing that wrong. For your maki, which is the rolled type sushi, you're going to need a square piece. Doesn't have to be perfect as long as it's a bit smaller than the fruit roll-up that you're using. Obviously it's going to need to be flattened out. You can use a rolling pin or a can, but personally I just use my hand. Once it's flattened out, you're going to just place it right on the fruit roll-up. Once again, it doesn't have to be perfect, just as long as it's on there. Then you're going to put your fillings in. For this one, I usually use Swedish fish, as I mentioned before. They kind of look like carrots and avocados, so you just add them all in there and then roll it up. So it's pretty easy to roll. All that stuff sticks together pretty easily. That first roll is always going to be the hardest, but once you get it in there, it's good to go. Then you're just going to roll up as many you have. I made 2 for this video. So same thing, add your fillings and roll away. For your nigiri sushi, you take your small rectangular squares, add your full-size Swedish fish, and then using some of those fruit roll-up strips that we cut earlier, you're going to place it right around the middle. It'll overlap on the bottom and it should just stick to itself to stay in place. If you find that it's not sticking very well, just a couple of drops of water just on your finger will help it stick really well. For your maki roll, obviously it needs to be cut once you have it rolled. The trick to this is a super sharp knife because it can be pretty sticky. And if needed, you can actually wet the knife in between slices. That usually helps a lot too. Oops, almost forgot about the salmon roe. So we need a smaller piece of Rice Krispie square, and you're going to kind of squish it into a cylinder shape, and then go ahead and cut it in half, and then flatten out the top. It might take a couple of tries to get it to the size you need, because the next step is to take some of the strips of fruit roll-up and wrap them around. Obviously these strips are only a certain length, so you just kind of need to eyeball it. Once you put all your strips on, make sure the very top strip kind of actually goes up over the Rice Krispie a bit, because you kind of need a little bit of a wall for your M&Ms or your fish eggs.
Go ahead and repeat that for as many of those as you're going to make. I made 2 for this video, one with orange M&Ms and one with red M&Ms. And there you have it. Obviously we are missing something. What are we missing? Soy sauce and wasabi. For the soy sauce, I just used regular old chocolate syrup, and for the wasabi, I used whipped cream that I put some green food coloring in.
Okay, so that's how you make candy sushi. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you try and make it. It's super easy, super fun, and great for any party. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll be making some more in the future. If you have any ideas for me, just add them in the comments. Thanks. Okay, bye.